Okay, so let's talk about the Exorcist Believer. We are finally here. Get ready. The discourse is going crazy on the internet, and yeah, we're here. Halloween ends. It feels like deja vu, doesn't it? But let's talk about the Exorcist Believer. But before we do, we are running a giveaway. If you want to enter, all you have to do is go to our Instagram, follow us there, and comment on the Exorcist Believer post that you want to enter the giveaway. We will announce a winner this Friday, and the winner will get a Saw X poster and t-shirt. So make sure you're entering that. But let's talk about the Exorcist Believer. But before we do as well, we have to say the name that everybody is scared of. And no, it's not Pazuzu. David Gordon Green. So David Gordon Green does return here, and all kidding aside with that, I do love that David Gordon Green returns to another IP horror. And that's going to be a controversial take. I know a lot of people hate Halloween Ends, and we can talk about that. We actually will talk about that tomorrow in a video I have for Halloween Ends. But David Gordon Green returns to direct The Exorcist Believer and presumably the rest of the trilogy for this franchise that will be coming out of The Exorcist Believer. So let's get right into the film and what it's about. Basically, you have this film that is set almost 50 years after the original film, actually 50 years for sure. And we have these two sets of parents whose daughters go missing. They come back, they're possessed, and now they don't know what to do. They turn to the only person they think can help them, and that is Chris MacNeil, as they have gone through this already. They wrote a book, they've gone on talk shows, and they've talked about possession, exorcisms, all of that. And then you have this movie that deals with faith, with community, and all this other good stuff, which I will talk about, but that will be in a spoiler review on Thursday, so stay tuned. First and foremost, I really did enjoy the relationship here between our protagonist, which is Leslie Odom Jr. and his daughter, Lydia Jewett. I think that the relationship here established from the beginning was great, very reminiscent of how we saw that relationship in The Exorcist 1973 with Reagan and Chris. So it really hits when it comes to this aspect of the father not knowing what's going on with their daughter during the exorcism and all of that, this pain that's felt throughout. You see, because they have this very loving relationship from the beginning, and you see that they also have gone through these very traumatic events together. And when it comes down to seeing all of this unfold, it really does hit you more because of that relationship that was built up so perfectly in the first half of this film, which I think is just one of the best openings, honestly. So very much so love that part of the movie. I also do love when this movie tackles faith and it tackles community, just as The Exorcist 1973 tackled losing your faith, regaining your faith, losing your religion, all of that. This one does the same thing, but it also is more in a sense with the paranoia of community, not knowing who really is there to help you and who's not, and it sort of makes you see the world in a different light as you see how everybody sort of has these same beliefs, wants in life and all of that. And I really enjoyed when the movie took that turn to sort of explore that, not just with the different faiths and religions that are out there, but also with the different people that come from different communities and all of that. But at the end of the day, all they want is just to be happy. And I really love that this movie brought all of these people together. And I do want to talk about that, but I feel like that's going to be more into the spoiler territory, so that will be for Thursday's video as well. Another thing that I thought was really cool about the film also was the exorcism itself, because it is done differently than the 1973 version. I know a lot of people are going to go back and forth between those movies, so that's why I'm just going back and forth, because I know a lot of people want to know what's different, what's new, and all of that. This is not a reboot. It is not anything trying to do 1973. It is doing its own thing and going forward with the lore of 1973. So what they do here is they have these different people, higher ups in these different religious and faith practices come in to do an exorcism. So it kind of felt at one point like it was a whole team basically is coming in to perform this exorcism, in comparison to the 1973, where it's just one girl. You have two girls now, so you do need a little bit more arm power, right? So you do need a little bit more power and faith behind this exorcism. And you have this group of people that come together to try and do this and get these girls back. And I thought it was a very interesting aspect of it. And you also have medical stuff, science stuff. So it makes it feel like it's really we're going to go 100 miles per hour on this demon, get it out, and try to save these girls. And I really love that buildup when it came down to it, as well as seeing the exorcism play out, because you see these very different approaches that they all have, but at the same time, it almost is the same thing. And I really feel like that was the big messaging here, is that we may practice these different religions, these different faiths, these different beliefs, systems, all of that, but at its core, we're all looking for the same thing, and that's this sense of belonging, community, and power and numbers and all of that. So I really love that part about the film. So this is David Gordon Green, of course, directing the film, and I was expecting big swings, and that's exactly what we get here. And I do want to talk about those a little bit more in depth, but I don't want to give spoilers. But I will say I really love some of these swings that were taken, and I really love how expectations are subverted in this film, because you're expecting something to happen, and then it completely takes a left turn for you, and that's exactly what I want in the film. I don't want it to be something that feels like everybody's going to come out and love it. I want something where it's going to be you loved or you hated that, and for obvious reasons you did, and for obvious reasons you didn't, and then it creates that conversation. And I really love that that's happening right now, this discourse about certain aspects that took place in this film, because it really adds more to it. You know, you don't want a cookie cutter film. You want something that is very much so hard on the edges, different, and take you on a ride. And that's exactly what Exorcist Believer did for me. I thought the cinematography here also was great. The exorcism imagery also very frightening at times, very horrific, and everybody in my theater just screaming and clapping at certain parts just because of how intense it was. I think that the ending is a very good nod and closure to the film itself. I loved every part of it as well. I think that we definitely get a great film about faith, about community, about relationships, and just also just accepting yourself and your past and all of that, and trying to move forward with it. Now, for some things I didn't like, I will say there were some pacing issues in the middle that were kind of minor to me in retrospect after watching the film and ending and just being like, you know, those were a little bit of issues there, but I can look past that. I also think Ellen Burstyn's character could have been handled a little bit differently, or just not included as much. That's just my opinion, but I do want to talk about that more because that's going to be in my spoiler review, and I don't want to spoil things for you if you haven't watched the film. But I will say, if you're a fan of the 1973, definitely go see this. Don't expect 1973. Don't even think about 1973 when you're watching this. Just experience this film for what it is, and that is a 2023 Exorcist sequel, and that's about it. And it definitely lives up to all of that, and I am definitely excited to see the trilogy. So very excited to see what people say. This course is already going crazy online, so I'm very excited to see what more people will say once it does release. Very curious to see about general audience as well, and what they think, because the audience I was with very much so loved it. So we'll see what happens. Let me know. As always, that's going to do it for me. We do give The Exorcist Believer 4 stars out of 5. We do think it's a worthy continuation to the story, and it definitely does provide some new and interesting aspects and directions that we haven't seen before. So very excited to see where David Gordon Green takes us in the next part of this trilogy, and we'll be definitely ready. So let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Make sure you are entering our giveaway by following us on Instagram, liking the Exorcist post, and commenting below what is your favorite Exorcist film. And as always, I'll see all of you next time. On the road to 31,000 subscribers, less than 3,000 to go, so super excited about that. I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.